Good morning. I am Angie. I'm your treasurer this year. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, age, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all who treasure freedom of conscience in the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today. We hope you follow our Facebook page to participate in Zoom and receive announcements about special events and our religious exploration classes. Please sign up for our weekly email. There should be a link in the comments section on our Facebook page where you can sign up. I'd like to draw your attention to recent announcements. For those in person, they are printed in your order of service. There are links in the UUC newsletter and weekly UU connections for those watching today. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It is so great to be with you this morning on our Earth Day Sunday. I'm the Reverend Julianne Lepp, and it's such a joy to start hearing our choir gather again for music, and as we continue to hopefully progress into post-normal, I don't know what word you use, but it's a joyful and beautiful day. So thank you so much for being here with us. And I have an announcement. This morning after service, we have a spring basket sale. So downstairs, there are baskets for $5, $10, $15, and then let me see if I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, $20. And you can get it for cash, check, and we have a handy dandy scan code that you can use your smartphone and it'll take you to our UU store. But anyway, all of those funds will go to support the congregation, and we have Mother's Day coming up, and maybe you want something fun to freshen up your house for spring, so I hope you go downstairs and check out our coffee hour after service. There's snacks for the kiddos, and we also have a little spring basket sale. Thank you so much. And one other announcement, the Earth Day hike. Amy, do you want to come up and give us an update on that?
Yeah, so in your order of service, it says there's an Earth Day hike right after service, but that's actually been canceled. I'm getting over a cold, so we're going to reschedule that for another time. Thanks.
Our opening words today are You Matter by Matthew Rosen. You matter. There is no one like you, never will be again. From the birth of the earth to its outermost end. You, an eager shout, a sacred yes that moves your flesh, your bone, your breath. You, she, he, they, you are whole and okay. Gracefully teaching your truth and your way. You cannot be forgotten. We cherish you so. Your voice and your hands can do more than you know. You see old things anew. You turn them and test them. Your wonder exhausts our old worlds to express them. You speak and lay bare all that you dig up and hold aloft from the dust of conventions grown cold. You upend every rock and pursue every glimmer and give a new name to each sparkle and shimmer. You chart out new paths and go beyond our horizons, new friendships, new stories, your hope always rising. You, welcome and wanted, whatever your skin, wherever the neighborhood you were born in. You, play across fences that keep us divided. Old walls become weak where your love is ignited. You, call us to kindness and questions reminding the life of our living is found in the finding. You, there is no one like you, never will be again, from the birth of the earth to its outermost end. You matter, you do. We'll keep learning with you. Now stand on our shoulders and see what you can do.
Good morning. I'm Eddie Swanson. This is my husband, Bob Nolan. Please join us in reading these words relating to the chalice printed in your program or online in the chat.
In this small flame dwell, the beacon light of lanterns guiding travelers home, the warmth of hearth fires tended through the generations, the transforming energy of furnaces and the power and life of our sun. May these blessings, warmth and light and life-giving energy be kindled in each of us.
I wanted to announce that we have a speaker who is not in your order of service, but at the very top of your order of service. We thought we'd make it a challenge this morning. So I'm going to invite Jim Phillips to come forward, and he's got an Earth Day reflection. Thank you, Jim.
Good morning, everybody, and Julie, thank you for asking me to be part of this. Reverend Julie asked me to reflect on some of my connections in the outdoors. I am a card-carrying claustrophobe. I mean, I am anxious whenever I am inside, and when I am outside, I am not. I mean, the evidence I can offer to this end is that I ice fish and I don't drink alcohol. Okay, it's that serious. And what I tell my students on my course survey is that I fish, I hunt poorly, I paddle, I walk my dogs, I garden, whatever I can do to be outside. That is my place. And so I ask myself, what draws me to that? And I think ultimately, it is the solitude that I need to quiet my mind enough to really engage in that magical place that is out there, that is either our planet or that little piece of it that I'm enjoying at that particular time, which kind of runs contrary to the connection piece. If I'm saying, I need to go out there and get away from everybody and everything so that I can focus on that. But I think I can make this connection here. What this drew me to think about was, what are the elements of a relationship that I have with those things that are out there, either the planet as a whole in a cosmic sense, or that little particular corner of it that I happen to be enjoying when I'm outside. And I think the first one of those elements is knowledge. I'm a scientist. I'm also a fisher. Both of those are very curiosity-driven things. We want to know what's going on. We want to know why it works. We want to know what kind of fish are in that body of water or whether they're in there yet. And that's a motivating thing to go find out, are things working? Are the elements in place? Are the pieces of the puzzle connecting? The danger in that as an entry point for this is that you get overly focused on the mechanistic aspects of that cosmic thing out there, and you overlook the subjective things like beauty and awe and wonder. And so I try to remind myself to make sure I take advantage of those things too. One of the things I do in one of my spring courses, that is a course on environmental chemistry, where for all but one day I talk to them at the whiteboard about environmental chemistry. Think about that for a second. And I say, we need to take a field trip in this course. And what we do is we walk down Putnam Park. And if you go in Putnam Park beyond the university, beyond State Street, if you get back in there, there's this place where these massive springs come out of the ground. And they're just a remarkable thing. And on that walk, I talk to my students about what a chemist sees when they walk through the woods. Because what we see everywhere is molecules. And so I see trees grabbing carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and building long chains into wood and these things. And some of them think this guy's pretty cool. A lot of them are rolling their eyes saying, wow, what was this guy doing back in the 80s? And they're both right. But I say, and we sit there and we talk about how the spring works, but I always make sure, pause for a second and look at how beautiful it is and what a gift that this water coming out of the ground is here, and how Wisconsin's gift of groundwater is one of the things that makes it one of the most special places in the world. And Rod and Gun Park is another place to go see groundwater. It's a wonderful thing. Somewhere in the middle, there is a responsibility to care for and preserve these things. Part of that involves sharing those experiences with other people like my students and my children, and just making sure that I pay attention to my own actions. I'm not a really good environmentalist that rides my bike everywhere and only eats a vegetarian diet, but I do try. There are people out there that do a much better job with that than me, and they have my admiration. And I guess the other piece is, what are the practices that define this relationship? From a spiritual sense, what is it that we do to engage in this process? And, one of the things that I have found myself drawn to, as much as I like nature, is I become fascinated with the interface between humans and urban environments and the natural world. And I've really compelled myself to find nature in my own backyard, like Putnam Park. I like to spend a lot of time gardening. Again, I'm not very good at it, but I love having my hands in the dirt. My yard is not a nature preserve. It is a very sculpted place that's full of non-native plants and sort of arranged the way I want it to, but that's my little corner of the earth and carrot a shape on my own. And I'm always thinking about what's going on in the dirt as I'm mashing through it with my hands. And ultimately I think that's a spiritual practice for me, sort of making that little interface with my little corner of planet Earth and trying to make that right. The other practice for me is primarily fishing. For all of those things that I do out there, usually a fishing pole gives me the excuse to get out there and do them. And one of the things that I have found myself doing is driving over to Lake Michigan and fishing for these migratory rainbow trout that live in Lake Michigan and come up in the streams and spawn. And it is completely a human-created thing. None of these fish, they're essentially exotic species put in the Great Lakes during the terrible experiment in fisheries management that has been the Great Lakes for the last many years. But it's still a remarkable thing. The fish don't know that. Every spring they come up out of the rivers and they swim the rivers following this core primal instinct to go do what they need to do in the spring to make new rainbow trout, even though they're not capable of doing it in those rivers. And ultimately, in a few places, they're catched by the Wisconsin DNR, and they strip their eggs artificially and maintain this fishery. But getting back to the connection thing, this became my obsession during the pandemic, as this is something I did as a kid, but it was like, hey, what can I do all by myself? It's like, well, trout fishermen kind of invented social distancing. So this is, I really doubled down on my fishing time. But I had this really cool experience down in Racine, Wisconsin. And this was a year ago. And this was sort of, right after the 2020 election cycle had turned the corner. And I'm sitting here fishing in this place where there's just a bunch of people standing 10 feet apart, And I looked around and I saw that these were all different kinds of people, all brought together to chase these fish that were following this primal instinct. And there were these guys talking with these Russian accents. I think they were Russian accents, something Middle European. Some people have Hispanic descent that seemed like first-generation Americans. Guys that drove across the state like me, a few kids from the small towns that were clearly maybe of a more conservative, traditional mindset. All that political stuff was out of the way. And there was 12 guys standing there with an earshot of each other, bantering back and forth. If somebody would catch a sucker, which is kind of an undesirable fish, we'd all kind of laugh at the other person. And there was like 100% unity in that moment. And it was like America was right there working before my very eyes. And it was a really, really, really cool thing. And then ultimately, one of these Russian guys came up to me afterwards and was asking me what I was doing to fish. And just, this connection that I felt to these people that were all from different places in this really horribly divided time was just a really cool thing. And it was all motivated, ultimately, in pursuit of these fish doing what they were primarily driven to do every spring. And that's what I have. Thank you.
And now Maddie and Lucy will give us a reading. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a responsive reading from UN and Environmental Sabbath Service, Earth Day 1999. To bring new life to the land, to restore the water, to refresh the air. We join with the earth and with each other. To renew the forests, to care for the plants, to protect the creatures. We join with the earth and with each other. To celebrate the seas, to rejoice in the sunlight, to sing the song of the stars. We join with the earth and with each other. To recall our destiny, to renew our spirits, to reinvigorate our bodies. We join with the earth and with each other. To recreate human community, to promote justice and peace, to remember our children. We join with the earth and with each other.
We join together as many and diverse expressions of one loving mystery for the healing of the earth and the renewal of all life. The earth and with each other.
Thank you to all members and friends who donate regularly in support of this congregation and the work that we do to help us make a difference in the world and in people's lives. Our 50-50 Share the Plate recipient for April is the Chippewa Valley Transit Alliance. Scan to donate on your QR code on here, or text 84321 to give. On-site donations can be made in the donation drop box in the gathering room or given to a greeter when the basket is passed. Please indicate on your giving envelope whether it is for a pledge payment, 50-50, or other fund. With gratitude for the abundance in our lives, we give to help people in need and to support the work of this congregation. Blessed is the Sky by Eric Williams. Blessed is the sky and all that is warm and filled with light. Blessed is the air and all that is open and free. Blessed is the earth and all that is steady and firm. Blessed is the sea and all that is hidden and deep.
Good morning. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We join here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to now be at home here on earth, under the stars, linked with each other. Margaret Kelp. When I think about what it means to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, and to be at home, to be myself here at home on earth, linked with others, I think about the environments that bring a sense of ease, acceptance, and safety, both in my body and in the bodies around me. Resma Menakem is the author of My Grandmother's Hands and an expert on conflict and violence, cultural somatics, and behavioral health. He says that changing the world begins with our bodies. Menakem encourages us to learn more about and embrace the role that historical trauma plays out in each of our lineages. He observes that unhealed trauma acts like a rock thrown into a pond. It causes ripples that move outward, affecting many other bodies over time. After months or years, unhealed trauma can appear to become part of someone's personality. Over even longer periods of time, as it is passed on and gets compounded through other bodies in a household, it can be a family norm. And if it gets transmitted and compounded through multiple families and generations, it can start to look like culture. But it's not culture. It's traumatic retention that has lost its context over time. Traumatic retention can have profound effects on what we do, think, feel, believe, experience, and find meaningful. We all have trauma we could stand to metabolize, work through, and grow up out of it with our bodies, not just with our thinking brains. This, according to Menakem, is the only way that we can heal both individually and collectively. I've been working with Resma's ideas and practices during the past few years. I've listened to multiple podcast interviews with him. I've read his books. Working with these practices has had a profound impact on me and my awareness of the changes that need to be made both with myself and with others for the good of human relationships on our planet. So I'd like to take a few minutes to lead you all through a brief body practice from his book, My Grandmother's Hands, so you can have a little bit of a taste of what this work might feel like. You're all already sitting down, so if you can just take a minute or two to kind of center yourself, sink into your seat, and just breathe normally. Notice your breath as it enters your nose, your windpipe, and your lungs. For about 30 seconds, just simply follow your breath in and out as it goes in and out of your body. Then bring attention to the bottom of your feet. Sense the ground beneath them supporting you. Stay focused here for a few breaths. Move your attention to your back, to the sensation of it pressing lightly against the pew or the chair. Feel the chair supporting you, doing what it was designed to do. Now, think of a person or a pet or a place that makes you feel safe and secure. Imagine you're with that person or pet or in that safe place, and let yourself experience that safety and security for a few seconds. Now, check in with your body. Start with your shoulders. How do they feel? Are they relaxed or constricted? Closed or open? What about your neck, your jaw, all of your major joints, your ankles, your knees, your hips, wrists, shoulders, your back, your toes? Stay with this experience for a couple of breaths, and then notice anything that arises or changes, such as a vibration or a sensation, an image, an emotion, an impulse, or a meaning. Just be curious. Now, imagine that comforting person, pet, or place is gone. And instead, there's an angry stranger standing in front of you. The stranger's arms are crossed, and he or she is glaring at you silently. You look into the stranger's eyes, hoping his or her expression will soften, but it remains unchanged. Check in with your body again. How do your shoulders feel? Your neck, your jaw, your back, your toes. Gently, one by one, feel into all the places in your body where you sense constriction, and just let your attention rest briefly in each one. Now, send the stranger away. Bring back the comforting person, place, or pet, and for several breaths, relax into the safety this presence provides. Now gently move your attention through your body, from your head to your toes one more time. Feel into each spot where you sense softness, and stay with each of these feelings for 1 or 2 more seconds. And I'll encourage you to continue to notice sensation in your body throughout the day. Just be curious. Notice areas of expansion, contraction. So at this point, you might be wondering how any of this relates to Earth Day or to our interconnection with the web of life. Well, we all know our home planet is ill. It's overpolluted, pillaged, its needs and laws are disregarded. We also know that our human family is hurting and sick. One of the Hermetic principles is the principle of correspondence. It states, as above, so below, as below, so above. So the health of our human species is a mirror to the health of our physical environment, and vice versa. As much as we don't want to know it to be true, we actually are in balance with each other. When we can begin to heal our trauma, our capacity for resilience and change begins to occur. Healing trauma creates more ease in our bodies, echoing outward. When we can connect with those places in ourselves where there is constraint, and instead of fighting against or judging or getting angry with those places, soften and apply self-compassion, this is the place where healing occurs. Our capitalist consumer culture would love for us to think that we consume ourselves out of our issue, that we can consume ourselves out of our issues. It is possible to move from trying to consume ourselves into perfection to a place where self-compassion, joy, and pleasure can live. This is the place where we connect with what is really important in our lives, our relationships, and our communities. I'll leave you with a short, but I think beautiful observation from a Ponca matriarch by the name of Casey Camp Horink. We are not humans protecting nature. We are nature protecting itself. Thank you.
I want you to imagine that Amy, our beloved religious exploration director, coordinator, is a tree. She is not only a tree, she is a ribbon tree. Scientifically known as a kapok tree. And all ages in the audience, I'm going to ask for your help to help me make noises in this beautiful forest that we're in. So I want you to imagine now that you are in a rainforest, and our beloved Amy is a swaying, beautiful kapok tree. The ribbons are all of the connections that she has with life and the animals, the air, the earth. And you know, 2 men walked into the rainforest moments before The forest had been alive with the sound of squawking birds and howling monkeys. Can you help me make the sound of squawking birds and howling monkeys? Oh, 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 ah, 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 oh, 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 ah, ah, ah. Now be quiet. Now be quiet. Okay. Now all was quiet as the creatures watched the two men and wondered why they had come. The larger man stopped and pointed to the great kapok tree, and then he left. The smaller man took out an axe he carried, and he struck the tree. Whack! Whack! The sounds went through the rainforest, and the wood of the tree was very hard. Chop, chop! The man wiped the sweat off his face and his neck. Whack, whack, chop! Soon the man grew tired. He sat down to rest, ironically, at the great kapok tree. And before he knew it, the heat and hum of the forest lulled him to sleep. Can you help me make a snoring sound? But a boa constrictor lived in the great kapok tree. He slithered down the trunk to where the man was sleeping. He looked at the gash the axe had made in the tree, and the huge snake slid very close and hissed in his ear, "Senor, this tree is a tree of miracles. It is my home, where generations of my ancestors have lived. Do not chop it down." And as you see, our great kapok tree has regained one of her ribbons because she is connected to the boa constrictor. And then a bee, can you make the sound of a bee? Bzzz, buzzed in the sleepy man's ear. "Senor, my hive is in the kapok tree, and I fly from tree to tree and flower to flower, collecting pollen. In this way, I pollinate trees and flowers throughout the rainforest. You see, all living things depend upon one another. And our kapok tree has recovered another ribbon." Now this is a really fun one. A troop of monkeys scampered down from the canopy of the kapok tree, and they chattered into the sleeping man's ear. "Senor, we have seen the ways of man. You chop down one tree and then come back for another and another. The roots of these great trees will wither and die, and there will be nothing left to hold the earth in place. When the heavy rains come, the soil will be washed away, and the forest will become a desert. And our tree has more ribbons." Now this sounds like a joke, but it's not. A toucan, a macaw, and a cock of the rock flew down from the canopy. "Oh, oh!" I don't know what sounds a toucan makes. "Caw-caw!" "Senor," squawked the toucan, "you cannot cut down this tree. We have flown over the rainforest and seen what happens when you chop down trees. Many people settle on the land, and they set fires to the underbrush, and soon the forest will disappear. Where there was once life and beauty, there will only be black and smoldering ruins. And our tree has more ribbons." Now this is another fun one. Have you seen the bright and small tree frogs? These are bright green, and this one goes, "Rabbit, rabbit." And in a squeaky voice, he piped into the man's ear, "Senor, a ruined forest means ruined lives. Many ruined lives. You will leave many of us homeless if you chop down this great kapok tree." And we have more ribbons. Now, what else lives in the forest? What creeps like this? Can anybody tell me? A jaguar. So what does a jaguar say? Roar. Meow. Meow. Roar. Aren't jaguars just big house cats? A jaguar has been sleeping along the branch in the middle of the tree because his spotted coat blends into the dappled light and shadows of the understory. No one had noticed him, and now he leapt down and padded silently over to the sleeping man, and he growled into his ear, "Senor, the kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner? More ribbons. 4 porcupines. Uh-oh. I don't know what sound porcupines make, but maybe you can pretend like you have porcupines. They swing down from branch to branch and whisper to the man, "Senor, do you know what animals need in order to live? Oxygen. And Senor, do you know what trees produce? Oxygen. If you cut down the forest and destroy that, what will give us life?" And now, what else lives in the forest that eat ants? Nate? Anteaters, that's right. Several anteaters climb down the kapok tree, and their young clinging to their back. The unstriped anteater said to the sleeping man, "Senor, you are chopping down this tree with no thought to the future. And surely you know what happens tomorrow depends upon what you do today. The big man tells you to chop down a beautiful tree. He does not think of his own children, who tomorrow must live in a world without trees." And then a very slow sloth comes down the tree, and he climbs down where the man first appeared. And only now, after all that time, did she reach the ground. Plodding ever so slowly to the sleeping man, she says, "Senor, you know how much beauty is worth. Can you live without it? If you destroy the beauty of the rainforest, on what will you feast your eyes?" And then a child, can someone be a child for me? And say, "Senor, Senor, Senor, when you awake, please look on all of us with new eyes." And the man awoke with a start. He awoke with a start. Before him stood the rainforest child, and all around him and staring were these creatures who depended on the kapok tree. What wondrous and rare animals they were. And then the man looked out, and it turns out that we have the sun shining in here too. And the sun was streaming through the canopy. Spots of bright light glowed like jewels amid the dark green forest. Strange and beautiful plants seemed to dangle in the air, suspended from the great kapok tree. The man smelled, can you smell? The fragrance of perfumes, and he saw the steamy mist rising from the forest floor. But he heard no sound because the animals were silent. The man stood, picked up his axe. He swung back his arm as if to strike the tree, but suddenly he stopped. Turned and looked at the animals and the child. He hesitated, and he dropped his axe and walked out of the rainforest. I'd like to introduce you to our kapok tree.
Hello, I'm the kapok tree. What do you think the ribbons stand for? Yes. Well said.
Do you want to repeat it for Zoom people?
Yeah. The interdependent web of life that we all belong to, the 7th UU principle, which teaches us that we need to have respect for the earth and everything that shares earth as their home. So thank you for listening.
And so one way to say that too is we believe in caring for our planet Earth, the home we share with all living things. Thank you.
Please join us with these words for extinguishing the chalice.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words today are the four-element blessing by Eric Williams. May the firmness of the earth be yours. May the flow of the water be yours. May the freedom of the air be yours. May the fierceness of the fire be yours. May all of the gifts of this life, the below and the above, be with you now and remain with you always.